James, your thought on the Von Erichs and their impact on Texas wrestling? No, okay.
But, you know,
I think James, have you seen Iron Claw?
I have not.
I think you'd like it. It's on. It's on. Well, I don't know if you'd like it or not. It's on HBO Max. You love movies. You or is it HBO Max?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on it. Yeah. I think you'd like it.
Max now, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. You're
I'm
right.
just wondering, why does everyone look like He-Man in the preview?
Well, because they're professional wrestlers in the '80s, and that's
buff like
that's
that.
what they look like.
They all have bangs.
Well, in Texas, you either had bangs or a Confederate flag on your tights, one or the other.
Probably had both. Some of them.
Well, some of them did. Shout out
That's right.
Michael P.S. Hayes and Bad Street USA.
We always, and we're going to talk Kings with James, but I'd like to know James' take, his answer on the discussion we had earlier, because James, we were talking about Jerry West and his passing at 86, and just how influential and important he was to the league. We're talking 60 years of between being a player and executive, being directly connected to championship basketball and championships that are won or lost, or good teams, great teams, all this other stuff. And Jesse asked a great question of who are the top 5 like most impactful, influential players in the league. And like, for instance, Magic and Larry is one, right? Like, you don't have to choose between one or two of them, but Magic and Larry is one of them. But like, what do you think about when you first hear that question?
Yeah, I think throughout the history of the NBA, I mean, I think you'd probably have to have more of like a top 10. I think Wilt is one of the most influential people ever, just because of his
Man,
early.
that's three people who mentioned him without blinking. Man, that's a good call, Hammer.
Yeah, I would say Wilt. I would even say Bill Russell, especially the way that Bill continued on as a coach, number one, but also all of his outside of basketball stuff that he did, as far as like civil rights stuff. And I think that like David Stern has to be one of the most influential people of all time. Outside of that, I mean, you got to put Michael Jordan as probably the top like player of the last probably 40 years, but also I would put Pat Riley as one of the most influential
Oh,
player to coach to executive, who hasn't just, it's not just one place that he's found great success.
Right.
He had his time in the league, but his time with the Lakers, his time with the Knicks, his time with the Heat, all of which were really, really impactful for the league as a whole.
that's a good one.
That
We
is
didn't
a
bring
good
up
one.
Riles.
That's
a really good one.
It's spot on too. And you talk about Riles. We have to now. We're kind of talking in like maybe not impactful, but great, maybe. But I don't know. Is this guy impactful? Do we have to put Phil Jackson on that list?
Yeah, I think Phil Jackson's on the list, but he's probably pretty far down the list, and I would put him like right below Greg Popovich, because not only does Popovich have more career wins, but on top of that, I think Popovich has been a man who has helped, I don't know, establish that coaches can have a voice in society outside of basketball and really push that, and also supported players having a voice outside of basketball. And so I definitely think Popovich
This
not only.
man wouldn't even tell us who he voted for in the.
Unless it's an all-star vote.
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah. but look at
That's
what
why I asked him who I voted for, bro. We don't have to. We know you've made that clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think Pop has been super influential, and not only that, but he's done it in a super small market, and been one of the, like, he's helped establish the Spurs as much as I mean, they were before, but as just like a perennial contender for 2 decades, and they're not anymore at this point, but they will be very soon, and they'll be right back there.
I'm gonna push back
Yeah.
on the influential. We were talking about influence
Mhm.
on Pop above Phil, because I feel like in a lot of these conversations, and this is what we did with David Stern, it becomes like a 6 degrees of separation with Michael Jordan, right? How important was what Michael Jordan did for the NBA. And would it be equally as important if Michael Jordan wasn't winning championships? Now, the question becomes, could Michael Jordan have won championships with any coach at that point in his career? He hadn't won them with Doug Collins. He hadn't won them with some other guys. But Phil Jackson seemed to be the missing piece for the Chicago Bulls. And I think when you have a player, you talk about the LeBrons, you talk about Stephs, you talk about the guys of that ilk, like winning championships is important. Phil was winning championships with 2, 3-ish guys that we had conversations about today.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, Kobe, and Shaquille O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty high level of influence. That's a lot of titles with a lot of really, really influential players right there.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that just a little bit. It's, what comes first, the chicken or the egg situation. But none of those guys can win without Phil. Like Michael didn't win without Phil. Shaq and Kobe didn't win without Phil. Phil left. They couldn't win.
And who would have told?
Or Kobe, it wasn't with Phil no more.
Yeah.
He left, and he needed Phil back
Right.
to win again. And I think that speaks to Phil Jackson more than anything.
Like, look, I get adding Phil as like a very influential coach, but his influence sort of stopped there. Like, I don't think, like, first of all, he wasn't a very good executive because he tried that and it didn't work that well.
Was that that's famous? That's famous bus riding Phil or subway riding Phil? You remember when Phil was on I think Phil was either on the bus or the subway when he was the New York executive.
Yeah, it had to be the subway.
Yeah, he was riding around.
Yeah.
Hey, there's Phil leaving. Somewhat. Remember who was it? Derek, who disappeared from the team? Someone disappeared from the New York Knicks. Like there was legitimate concern where this player was.
Oh man!
And Phil made like Jeff Hornacek or something go answer.
Derrick Rose.
Was it? I
Derrick
thought
Rose.
it was Derrick Rose. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point from James though. Besides coaching, Phil really ain't nothing.
I mean, I enjoyed his books. Like when I was younger, I like Sacred Hoops and stuff.
Where he trashed Kobe before he had to coach him a second time.
No. Where he explained sort of like his basketball, like where he came from. Like he was like raised like I think Protestant, and then he really started getting into like, more worldly religions and stuff, and just sort of like his mixing of all of those things as a coach. Yeah, I thought like his story itself is interesting. But again, I'm not giving someone something like influential just because he won games with great players. I think that again, Popovich has been a guy who has been very forceful and made sure that he had a voice. And someone put in the chat, like Popovich's coaching tree is incredible. Like his coaching tree, I think you can probably put up against almost anybody's, whether it's Mike Brown, Mike Malone, Monty Williams, Mike Budenholzer. Like the list could go on. And Borrego, just so many really high-end coaches. What's
Phil
that?
Don't have a tree, do it. Phil, and his hire is Derek Fisher.
Oh,
well,
maybe you could give him Steve Kerr. I don't know.
No, I don't know if those.
That's like
Steve Kerr.
That's like I feel like why? That's like giving. That's like giving.
They can share Steve Kerr.
That's like giving Bill.
Vrabel.
Thank you. That's like giving Bill Mike Vrabel.
Popovich and Jackson can share Steve.
Well, there you go.
Because Steve said he learned from both of them. The assistants for Phil, I don't know if it's his fault or what, but they just didn't go into. They just stayed with Phil.
That was like Adelman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Adelman's, like Elston's still an assistant. Like Elston never got a head coaching job.
Mm-mm.
I feel like Sam Cassell might be the new Elston Turner.
Yeah, it's not a strange one.
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
James, a couple other people that we had on that, because you're right. Doing the top five, like we can try, and like you, just for argument's sake, you could do 5, but in actuality, it's probably like 7, 8, 9, 10 influential people or groups of people or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple other ones we talked about. Dame had great points on Kobe and Allen Iverson, and I mentioned Dirk Nowitzki. I thought Dirk Nowitzki kind of opened. Dream Team showed the world, basketball. It felt like Dirk Nowitzki was the first one to break through and show the other world, like, no, you can come over here and be great. And I thought he opened up the floodgates for the world to see basketball.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I would also like the group from the late 80s, early 90s, Sabonis, Vlade, Drazen Petrovic, Sharunas
Yeah. Right.
Marciulionis,
Mhm.
like all of those guys, I think they truly opened the door. And I would say that Peja is a guy that opened the door for Dirk.
But
And so sort of that next
but
level of handoff.
the argument, though, and you're right about all those guys. None of those guys were Dirk, though. Like, those were good NBA players. Dirk was, Dame said it perfect. Dirk was an MVP. And we had never seen a international guy be that good,
Yeah.
on that level. Those other guys were just really good ball players. He was a franchise player.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're onto something there. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we could like throw a bunch of people into this. I think I've told you guys when I was doing my, like, I've collected quotes for a big man book forever, and I don't know if I'll ever get to it, but
When's the book coming, man? We need a James Ham book.
yeah, I don't know. It's just so much work. The
Wow,
the
James, I'm afraid of work. Jeez.
one of
Wow.
the
Spending
prevailing
12 hours at the Golden One Center is too much for him.
I'd say one of the prevailing things that I learned doing that is how many people consider Tracy McGrady as way bigger than we consider him as people in the
Mm.
media. That Tracy was the guy that was 6'9" and moved like a point guard, and a lot of them didn't look at Jordan. A lot of them didn't look at Iverson as much as they looked at T Mac and sort of the way he was able to brand himself out, and really build something. And not only that, but so guys like Kevin Durant looked at him as like, one of these guys that really changed the game. So I thought that that was interesting. And then I would also say, like, I don't think there's been a more influential on court player than Steph.
Yeah,
I just,
I was thinking like we're not trying to name every guy, but we probably like Steph deserves
Oh, for sure.
a spot in this
Yeah.
conversation.
yeah, I mean, just like what he's done to the 3-point game, and
Mhm.
it's not just the men's game. We're seeing it now sort of take over the women's game as well, and just how like every generation now, taller people are shooting threes. Like everyone shoots the three ball now, but also just the volume of threes, how it's gone up, just crazy. I think I've told you guys when Peja retired in 2011. I believe he was third all time in 3-point makes, and he's now like number 25. Like that's how much the game has changed in less than 15 years. It's just wild.
T Mac. There are definitely a lot of people who look at T Mac and hold him in higher regard than maybe the majority of people do. You know who's like that for this generation? We talked about it, I think, a couple times before. Is Paul George. Like
Mhm.
the kids who
Mhm.
are like
Yeah.
probably like
Well,
17, 18, 19 years old, they look at
I
Paul
got another
George like,
one.
dog.
Everybody should know exactly what name I'm gonna say.
Hmm,
Russell Westbrook.
Russ is
Mm,
there.
Yeah,
Russ is there.
how many guys? Yeah, there's a lot of younger guys that talk about Paul George and Russell Westbrook in a way that media people don't.
Yeah, this was about a year ago. That was when Brandon Miller was
Mhm.
doing his interviews. He was
Yep.
like, "Yeah, Paul George, my goat."
Well,
Everybody's like,
someone just
"What?"
said that about Russell Westbrook. I don't remember who it was. Someone like just days ago said that like he was like obviously Jordan's up there, but for me, I grew up watching the way Russell Westbrook played. I
yeah.
can't remember who that was.
I think a lot of players, current players, Leasy brings it up in the Matthews Mattress Chatty House here.
Mhm.
Kyrie is
Oh, there you go.
so
Yeah.
well loved and respected by a lot of the players. But I don't know. Like it would be really interesting to you almost have to build a timeline of who was influential at one point. I mean, I don't think any of us have mentioned Kareem. And then Kareem was really, he was influential on the court, and later in life he's been more influential off the court. But I also think for a long time he was sort of like pushed out of the league, and because he wasn't easy to deal with, and I think now he's kind of made like maybe a little bit of full circle where he's coming back. And then I think also we'd have to like throw John Wooden in there, even though he wasn't in the NBA, but his run at UCLA and how it fed the league and really changed the league, I think is something that is like extremely influential in the history of basketball.
And to just kind of bring this conversation back to, where it all started, talking about Jerry West and the passing of Jerry West. You mentioned Kareem. We did bring up Kareem earlier. And I think one of the unique things about both Kareem and Bill Russell was with Jerry, it felt like Jerry West was always around basketball. Like Bill Russell, and I do think it speaks to the different experiences that Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had versus Jerry West. But Bill Russell and Kareem kind of stepped away for a little bit. They had, at times difficult relationships with media, difficult relations with fans. Obviously, the climate in which those guys were playing in. You just spoke about the civil rights work that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did. Bill Russell was right next to him for a large portion of that. And I think it's one of the really, truly incredible things about Jerry West is it's incredible to think Jerry West isn't here anymore. Because it feels like Jerry West was talking about basketball yesterday. It feels like Jerry West was on, doing some interview, or someone was writing about him, or he foresaw, the talent in Victor Wembanyama or where the league is going. Like, it just feels like Jerry West is always in some way, shape, or form around every basketball story. And it's unimaginable to think he's not going to be anymore.
Yeah, I think if we just look at the pure player, coach, and executive, I don't think there's ever or will ever be anyone that was so good at all three aspects. I mean, certainly the executive and the player aspect, and I think that that's where Jerry West was always willing to gamble. He was always willing to like take the league in a different direction. And I mean, building the Lakers in the 80s, but also, drafting Kobe Bryant, a high school player, trading an established player in Vlade Divac to go get that pick to select Kobe. I mean, that was huge. And like you can go through like so many different moments where he helped build teams that were almost like couldn't be built, like even now, I mean, he went into Memphis and was able to help build a winner, a sustainable winner in Memphis. He, the work he did with the Clippers, the work, again with the Lakers, but also the Warriors and the Klay Thompson situation where he like demanded that they not trade Klay Thompson at one point. I just think that there's so many moments in the history of the game that we've watched, where an 86-year-old man has such a stamp on everything that we watched.
Mhm.
And I think that that's really, I mean, what he's got 8 titles as an executive. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. And so, yeah, really, I think the other thing is about him. Every media member that talks about him talks about how honest he was, how forthright he was, how he had no problem speaking his mind. Like, it always felt like everything was off the record because the discussions got lively and very honest very quickly. I got to meet him one time with Doug. We were, I think, in LA for a Kings Clippers game, and he was there. And of course, he traded for Doug Christie when Doug was drafted by the Seattle SuperSonics in 1992, and told Bob Whitsitt and George Karl that he would never play for them. And Doug was just sitting there, and his rookie season was wasting away, and Jerry West traded for him. So they had a relationship, and I was able to. Doug asked me to take a picture of the two of them, which I sent to him this morning again. But just like, his influence on so many things, not just Lakers land or not just, like the things that we've seen him do and these other stops, but like globally as a whole of the things that are around us. It's been so many times where he had a finger in the pie of what happened.
And you know what else is crazy, Ham? And we did the same things when we were reminiscing about Jerry West, that you just did and the things that you just spoke about. He's also one of the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he is one of the greatest on the court as well. And I know you forget about that because of all the great things he did as an executive and how good he was as an executive. Look at there,
Oh,
James.
that's
Yeah,
good stuff.
that's a great picture right there.
A
Doug
very,
Christie.
a very, very rare picture of Doug Christie without a bow tie on.
Yeah.
A very, very rare long tie picture there of Doug Christie.
Very
But
interesting.
yeah, I
It
mean,
almost doesn't look right on him, but that's not the
that's
point.
not
Go
his,
ahead. Sorry.
his style is the bow tie.
Yeah,
That's his
it
style.
feels like it.
But yeah, he was just so good as a player, unbelievable basketball player. And Damien said it perfectly. I asked him, I said, was he better basketball player or executive? And he's like, yeah. I don't even know how you choose
Yeah.
in that respect, man, because he was so good at both.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's going to be the legacy. It's that, you don't stick around the game for 60 years unless you have something to offer. And he just had something to offer at every turn. And I think that that's really amazing, sort of his lineage as a person. And his son is an executive in the league still. So like became a family business. And so I definitely like just everyone who speaks so glowingly about him. I shook his hand. I met him for 2 seconds. I didn't have a super long conversation or anything with him, but everyone just said, like, just such a nice man and just so welcoming and then brutally honest every step of the way.
Yeah. I remember about a year ago, I came in and I talked about it because I was just kind of it just resonated with me his candidness
Mhm.
about everything when he was on Paul George's podcast about a
Mhm.
year ago. Phenomenal episode. I encourage anybody to go check it out. But a long form interview conversation with Jerry West talking about his career, talking about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard and everything, and he just listening to him speak, I was just captivated because, like you said, James, he was just honest. He was just open and honest with decisions that were made, some of his some of the things that haunt him to this day, some of
Mhm.
his all this stuff, man. And it was a great conversation to listen to.
That's
Yeah,
funny
I
that
think
that was like less than a year ago.
Mhm.
Like was get some guys like they fall back for a while and hey, where's Bill Russell been? Hey, where's so and so been? Not Jerry West. He's just doing stuff.
He's on Paul George's
Yeah, like he's on
podcast.
Paul George's podcast. Like, man,
isn't that crazy? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely amazing. I mean, even like some of the living legends that we still have. Why am I drawing a blank? Brown, the
Larry
Memphis. Yeah, no. Um,
Hubie.
Hubie. I
Oh,
mean, Hubie's in his 90s.
yeah.
It's still going strong.
Well,
So
you see, he got into the painted area.
It's we talk so much about sports media. Yeah, obviously very different job. Hubie at 90 is better
That's
than virtually
he
everyone
is.
in that position.
He is.
Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
he
Hubie's
can't do as many games, but
No, which sucks for us, but man, he's just
yeah.
phenomenal.
It's amazing though. Some guys just have it. Like you watch and you can flick on a baseball game or you can turn on a football game and instantly they draw you in and you're like, "Wow, I can't believe how good this person is what they're doing." And it can be young, it can be older. I think even watching the A's like I still do, they have Harry Carey's great grandson calls games. My goodness, he's so good. Like,
Mm.
you turn it on and it's just velvet. The whole time you're just like, how I mean, he sounds like he's been doing it for 35 years. And it's because probably he's listened to his dad and his grandfather and his great grandfather so much of it, and him and his brother work together. but like just how good they are at that aspect of the game is just telling a story, painting a picture while it's happening. Even, we're so blessed here to have Gary Gerald, who's been doing that for so long, and just painting an amazing picture of what people, some people aren't able to watch at the time.
And guys like, I think about guys like Hubie Brown, Mike Fratello, PJ Carlissimo, really good coaches, right? But nobody would look at them as Pat Riley, Greg Popovich, and Phil Jackson. But the way they're able to explain the game and teach the game during a broadcast is magic. It's magic, right? Like they can explain, they can teach the game, and that's what they are. They're coaches, they're teachers, right? And when making the X's and O's and being on the sidelines, I know Hubie had a great renaissance with the Grizzlies, but these guys, they've failed, they've lost games, they've gotten fired and stuff like that. But they know so much, and they're able to explain it to everybody else in such a way that we learn so much about the game. It's just it's an interesting dynamic. I don't know if there's really a point there. It's just the fact that as coaches, maybe hell, the way society is now, I'd be like, he's not a good coach. The Huey Brown, that guy, he didn't win anything, and he's an unbelievable teacher of the game, just in a different form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The real question is, at least in my mind, is how would Jerry West handle the Malik Monk situation?
Oh, he'd say, Jerry or Malik, you want to stay here.
Yeah, that's exactly what he'd say. And that would be my pitch. Jerry West would want you to stay in Sacramento, Malik. We'll talk about, I want to bring James into a conversation Casey and I were having about Malik and what these next couple of weeks and perhaps these next couple of days will look like for Sacramento as well. Steeler and Casey, along with our man, James Hammer, the Insiders, here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Clear.
Clear.
Oh, man. What's happening, Hammer?
Not a whole lot. The Eights just got an insurance run in the top of the eighth.
Oh, they came back to take the lead?
They lead the Padres 4-2.
Wait,
Miller time.
Who were the Giants playing?
The Astros.
Oh, the Astros. That's right.
It's Miller time. Although he's looked human the last couple of weeks.
The Queens of R&B.
This is fine. I think this is I think she'd be okay with me saying this. My mom texts me. She says, Tank is going to kick Martin's ass. I'm watching the press conference. Tank pulled out the video. That is going to be an ass whooping.
I know who Tank is. I don't know who Martin is.
Frank Martin.
I agree with that analysis fully, by the way.
Cheryl and Elk Grove, boxing correspondent. James, what's your second favorite sport besides basketball?
Oh, actually, I would put football first, baseball second, and basketball third. Like, I started covering basketball because basketball was here.
Yeah, I'm going to use that against you. You're gonna write something that they don't like, and James doesn't even like basketball.
No. I do. I love basketball, but I mean, you've been in my bar. Like, you see what's on the walls of my bar. It's a lot of baseball. It's a lot of old school football. It's some old school basketball.
Yeah, you got Dwight Clark behind you, not Jerry Reynolds. So I can either take that as you love football or hate Jerry Reynolds. I'm not sure which it is, to be honest with you, James.
He's an S starter, James. He is an S starter.
That's right. Like, football was always my, like, what I loved playing the most, and then baseball, and then basketball. But I got heavy into basketball like right out of high school.
Well, there's a lot of things that stand out about this.
Yo,
There are a lot of things that stand out about
They
that
had
video.
August Alsina there.
Man, that was a very odd way to show the American Airlines arena.
I saw a video. Take a picture of this, a mental picture of this. I saw like a picture of when that arena was built. None of those buildings that you see were up.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
It was literally like a vacant lot almost.
Well, think of what Arco 2 looked like, or Arco 1, both of them.
Oh, Arco 1 must be wild.
There was nothing there at all.
Yeah,
They
drive into the middle of nowhere.
I've seen the same thing with like it's Oracle now, Oracle Park, the Giant Stadium, and when they built it in 2000, there's nothing around there. Like it was literally by itself on China Basin.
So Jalen got that what's it called? Vitiligo? The Michael Jackson thing?
I don't think so.
It must have been lighting. I was looking at that part that was above his shirt. Like, man, that looks a little.
He got vitiligo.
That's
Uncle Ruckus would say. Oh, PG.
Yeah, PG is on the next 2 games. Well, I got an idea. Hey, Paul, turn to your side and boot that guy at the end of the table off. Literally the most uncharismatic human being on the planet.
Bob Myers got the worst haircut in sports media too.
Sucks. Jeez, he's terrible.
Hey guys, who are your conference final? Who are your finals MVP candidates right now? Mine's Brad Stevens.
You know who mine is? Mine's James Ham.
Look, I'm surprised he didn't say. Well, I mean, Kevin Durant had such a good season. I mean, that's something that you got to think about. What did Malika say that time? Like, how do the Pacers sustain all this? Well, the Knicks and Josh Hart. I mean, these guys, they just really get after it. And they.
All right, Bob, get the hell out of here.
I'm gonna have a problem with Woj too if Kristaps is ruled out because he's really been pushing this whole he's gonna play thing. Yeah,
he said he's gonna play.
It's how he's been talking. He's optimistic about it and all that.
Well, you know that's not gonna work. He's optimistic about Dan Early.
Boy, the fact is, Woj can't afford another L.
Charlie Brown me with a football the one time. I can't do it twice.
Shams is gonna stomp on Woj's grave if Porzingis is.
You imagine Shams comes out? Yeah, Porzingis was never gonna play the rest of this series.
Oh, please do that. Please do that.
He was never gonna play. It was always over.
Paul George did start.
Breasted. That's a Kamara look.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think Kamara got that exact suit. To be honest with you. His jewelry a little fancier than Paul George's.
It is.
But...
It is. It is.
This is Wheezy. One of the state jobs, the Department of Consumer Affairs is at Arco 1. Arco 1 is still sitting there, and the only way you can even distinguish it is it has 2 statues in the front that are slightly inappropriate looking, if you're really looking at them. But
what are the statues again?
I mean, they're giant phallic statues.
Oh, well, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess they moved differently back in the 80s.
When we were
coming
doing
back, James, so I just nope. James, who knew James Ham was the most inappropriate of the 4 of us?
Hey, you guys want to know something that like you're gonna look at me like, come on, Casey.
I feel like I do that a lot.
Come on, bro. Are you for real? For real? Everybody gonna listen and be like, come on, Casey.
Well, people do that all the time.
I don't think I've ever been to Arco 1. Like as I went to a game there when I was 2, but I don't know where it's at. I wouldn't be able to drive over there.
That's fine.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it up close and personal.
Do you know where the Coke building is in the Thomas?
Yes.
It's like across the street. It's like on the
really.
Yeah, it's like the corner across.
So if you get off on Northgate and you go down, I think it's not to the Paso, but to Arena. Oh, you take a left on Arena and you go down about I don't know, 3/4 of a mile. It's on your right, and it's just an office building. That's what it
If
looks
you
like.
if you've seen the Coke building, you've seen Arco 1, you just didn't know it was Arco
Just
Run
pass
because
by
it
it.
looks like
Yeah.
it doesn't
And those little
it
statues.
absolutely does not look like basketball games were played there. What I'm sorry, James, what were those statues again?
They have some phallic statues out
Oh
front.
man,
So
To be honest, I
here's
didn't think he'd repeat it.
oh, why not?
I
Yeah,
thought he was
so
gonna tap dance around it. No, he didn't. He's
no. So when we were doing Small Market Big Heart, when we were filming Small Market Big Heart, Greg Van Dusen, the late great Greg Van Dusen, actually told us, "Hey, I would love to do it, but I want to shoot my interview out in front of Arco 1." And we're like, "Okay, that's fine. We'll figure it out." So the only day he had free was some random day. It was like 103 degrees. It cooked our cameras.
Oh.
Before we actually could even go do the interview, we had to figure out that the Buzz Oates group owned the building. We had to go get permission from them. Then once we got done filming and it went into post, we had an attorney watch through and was like, "Hey, you have those 2 statues in the back and you're going to need to get approval because those are works of art." So then we had to track down who built the statues, which were 2 brothers that were deceased. So we had to find one of their
Jeez.
daughters to get them to sign off on the statues being in the film, or we would have had to scrap Greg Van Dusen's entire interview, which ended up being one of the great moments of Small Market, where Greg Van Dusen is literally talking about Greg, Luke, and Bill up in the rafters when there was a leak, and we pan back and forth between the footage of them mopping up the floor and Greg Van Dusen, and it literally appears like he's wearing the same exact shirt that he was wearing the night that he's on his hands and he's mopping the floor up at Arco while the roof was leaking.
we really don't discuss enough that the original owner of this team could have plummeted to his
that would have been.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
why? Who? Somebody had to talk him out of that. Don't do
no
that.
one. Yeah, like
Don't do that.
you'd
sir.
feel like there's probably 40 people in the organization right now who would not,
What
because
if
Vivek
Vivek-
absolutely seems like the type who would climb up to the top of the Golden One Center and try
I'll
to
just go do it myself.
take something shut. There's at least 40 people who would be like, "No, Vivek, no." Then there's probably 4 or 5 who would go up there with him and shove him off.
So the story is that
Like New Jack.
number one, you can't cancel a game on your own. The NBA has to
Right.
cancel the game, right? So that's
Right.
number one. But it was becoming a point where the court was unsafe. So here's the problem. If they would have had to cancel the game for something like that, it was $1 million fine, because then you have to reschedule the game and pay for all the cost of that.
Mm.
They didn't have the money to do it. So they were all standing there like, "Well, what's going on?" What had happened was they just had, like, the air conditioning units were just installed, and then there was a crazy rainstorm, but it was with, like, sideways wind, and it blew water up into the air conditioner, and then it was coming back through the inside of the air conditioner. Anyway, Greg Van Dusen, Greg, Luke and Bill, he had been in construction his whole life and said, "Okay, well, look, there's no one that I'm going to send up there to walk out on the steel girder. I'm going to do it myself, because I'm the one who is, again, walked on steel girders this high up in my lifetime and gone up and done something like this." He wasn't tied off at all.
Oh,
He climbed out on a steel girder with a banner and just, like, basically put the banner underneath the leak and let the banner fill up with water while he was like he just tied it off up in the rafters and then climbed back over, and away he went. Yeah, I'm at 80,
It's
90 feet up.
terrifying to think about, like, right
Yeah.
now.
yeah. Hey, you guys want to know something else? No lie. I'm not even. No cap, as Greeny would say.
Well,
I'm-
Greeny
I'm-
would say that.
Being this, I think I was at that game.
Oh,
I was like 4. I don't know what year it was, but it was.
Well, normally it's 7.
I wasn't even.
He
You
was-
7.
have a very explicit memory.
I wasn't
of
even 7, but I
7.
remember being at a Kings game, and I was actually sitting pretty. My auntie Wanda, she could very. I think
courtside
she-
Kenny.
Yeah, I think I
Well,
was
it
sitting
the
like.
Bertha courtside.
I think I was sitting courtside. She could verify this.
I don't doubt Auntie Wanda was sitting courtside.
And I remember just vaguely water on the court, the game being stopped, and yeah, I remember that. Now, I think that's happened a couple times, or it happened a couple times in Arco's history. So maybe that wasn't the game, but I do remember that happening.
I was at the game where we were in warm-ups and a bat flew out, and this happened twice in his career, but Manu Ginobili just snatched it out of the air and
Mm.
caught the bat, like, right in front of us. Like, "Oh my gosh, he just caught the bat. Did you see that?"
What was the
I do
game?
remember. That's crazy.
That did happen multiple times, which is very bizarre.
Twice. And then he had to go through 2 weeks of, horrible rabies shots.
Shots,
Rabies shots are the
yeah.
worst. Yeah.
What was the game? Was it in Philly? What
Yes,
was
it
the
was Philly.
DeMarcus Cousins
Yeah. So the game in Philly,
condensation on the court?
yeah, what happened there was we're having a super, super like high humidity day outside. And the way an air conditioner works is basically it takes the air and it like cleans the condensation out of the air. Anyway, someone left doors open and it let the condensation in and the air conditioners couldn't keep up. So what it did, it put a slick on the court and there was nothing they could do. It put like a moisture on the court. I was in San Francisco. It was
That's
me
right.
and Jim Cozumore and Jerry Reynolds, and we got stuck on an hour and 35-minute pregame show because the NBA wouldn't cancel the game, and we knew about 30 or 40 minutes in that it wasn't gonna happen, but that's where DeMarcus had got the mop, and he was doing
Yeah.
the mopping. I also know, like, Kosta Koufos
That's
had come out.
amazing.
Yeah. Costa came out and he said, "Hey, like the floor is this is unsafe and someone's going to get hurt. Like we can't play on this." And then yeah, they said, "Okay." Eventually they stopped the game, but it was because of a door was left open and allowed some of the weird air to come in, and then it because of the way the air conditioning was working, it screwed everything up.
Kristaps Porzingis is out for game 3.
There you go. Woj is just
Take a lap, Woj.
man.
Another
How about you just run the mile for PE today?
another
Woj,
L
just-
for
just
Adrian.
keep running until we tell you to stop.
Yeah.
And the first one to tweet it, Shams Charania.
Mm. Wow.
Man, Woj
Oh,
is having a bad
man.
week.
Um,
Woj is having
I
a
think
bad
I
week.
probably say this every NBA Finals year, but I'm looking. We got the TV on in the studio, and they're in Dallas and everything. I just my mind just starts thinking, man, and it's like, can you guys imagine an NBA Finals game in Sacramento? I know it's the NBA. I know it's sports. Anything. It seems so unbelievable. An NBA Finals game in Sacramento. That would be crazy.
It does seem unbelievable to me.
I was at a Western Conference Finals game in 2002. It was wild. I remember the first
I was
playoffs.
22 when that game was played, James.
I
I'm
don't
not
know,
22 anymore. In fact, I
90
was 21.
the 95-96 season. I went to every one of those playoff games, and that was crazy. That was the loudest any building I've ever been in. Like the whole building was alive. Like your hair was
14
standing up
teams.
on its end.
This is not helping. This is not helping at all.
The
No.
NBA Finals at the Golden One Center.
Man,
That
I
would be
remember.
crazy.
God, I remember that game 7 so vividly. Part of it was because I was on the air, and I remember just the overwhelming feeling that the city died that day.
Mm.
Oh,
Mm.
just
Mm-hmm.
Never forget going
I'd-
to Bel Air and just it looked like
silent.
zombies. Yeah.
I remember leaving the old KSFM studios. Just it was like all I needed was a tumbleweed to just go flying down Arden Way, because that's what it felt like.
Yeah. No, it's dark times, right?
Were you at Game 7?
I don't
Amber?
think I was at Game 7. I think I was at Game 5 of that series.
That was the
I randomly have been like around for weird things. So I was me and the wife went to A's Yankees playoff series, and we were like right up between home plate and first base, but closer to home plate. When Derek Jeter made the play on Jeremy Giambi at home plate, that was wild.
Mm.
Again, I was in I got to be there for a couple of finals and all that stuff, but also the Kevin Durant injury in Toronto. And then like just Kings coverage stuff has always been weird. So someone asked earlier if I had met Shaq, and I've been in scrums with Shaq, but I haven't like hung out with Shaq.
I know
Jason Jones always had better stories with Shaq.
I know who you are.
I do love the idea of James Ham hanging out with Shaq.
That's my guy, James Ham.
No,
Yeah.
It's Kings Beat, the Insiders.
this is going to go on
James.
for 20 minutes.
And,
Yeah, it could.
That's just my guy.
No, he's got to yell first.
No, I'm talking about James Ham. Stop. Don't do that. I'm talking about James Ham.
And I pop every time you do that, and I hate myself for it. I feel if I stop laughing, you'll stop doing it. But like, I don't find it funny at all until you do that, and then it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And I just got confirmation here from Auntie Wanda. I think we were there. So we were at the game. We're sitting courtside. The roof was leaking. And I said, do you know if the owner went up to the rafters to stop the leak? And she says, that sounds familiar. I remember everyone was freaked out.
Well, yeah, because
Well, you got to clear the spot in case he falls. You don't want him falling on someone else. I know Charles Barkley.
Just now, I was at the game.
Charles Barkley sat in the stands with an umbrella open. He sat in the stands because it was raining that day, so everyone had brought umbrellas. There were umbrellas all over the place, but not for that. I mean, it was just like he was being ridiculous.
that is so dreadful.
Ugh.
Just awful to think about.
Whew.
Absolutely awful. But it fits this organization.
It's
Yeah,
crazy high.
The owner just climbed up to the rafters and held a banner up there with absolutely like no security. And just the colder part, no one stopped him.
No one.
No one said, no, sir, this is a terrible idea. You could plummet to your death in front of an entire arena of people. No, go up there. Yeah, stop the water. Way to go, Luke. No, it's good. Or Greg, Luke and Bill.
Greg,
No, good. No, it's good.
Just let him go.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Somebody, what are we going to do? Oh, it's good. Greg said he's going up there right now.
I guarantee you no one would be talking about puke guy if the owner falls from the...
That'd be a solid scene in the Kings version of Winning Time, though.
Well, now if you truly take liberties, if HBO does truly take liberties with how they tell stories, in the Sacramento Kings version of Winning Time, he falls off of the rafters.
Either that or like we just don't have a janitor guy to pay or whatever, so the owner's got to go and clean it up.
There you go.
Or he does like he almost falls, but he hangs there like Stallone and Cliffhanger. He's just like hanging there.
So that's a good point. He can't plummet to his death because that's not believable.
Yeah.
He just flies from the banner. Then you have a million people. Did the Kings owner hang from the ceiling from a banner?
No, take this. No, hold on. I don't know. Is Greg with us?
Yeah, he's with us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Luke and Bill is. Yeah,
Okay,
Van Dusen.
I want to make sure.
We've accidentally killed off enough people on this show.
I want to make sure because I was going to say I didn't know, but I was going to say like they do it like the Iron Claw. They show him up in the rafters, and then all of a sudden they just cut to his funeral, which was 40 years later, but they just cut to his funeral.
Yeah, storytelling. Storytelling.
Still better
than
that nobody's here. The lights go off.
No, there it is.
Wow.
I did say something about Jason Tatum and Malik Monk and trying to, save this whole thing. You said this, I think you said this to us on Monday, Hammer. Informally, yeah, the Malik knows what the Sacramento Kings are going to offer him. Do you think that they're anxious to get this formal conversation started, and they're rooting for the Celtics to get this thing over with before the weekend gets here?
I don't know.
Or is there not much to discuss at this point?
Yeah, there's not much. I mean, the years, like how you're going to structure the deal, however that would be. But it's pretty cut and dry. Like from what I know, like again, the Kings aren't officially allowed to extend any offer, but it's pretty well known that the Kings are willing to do whatever it takes financially, whatever is within their power to bring Malik back. And I mean, that's the best you can hope for. That's kind of all you can hope for right now if you're Kings fans who are hoping to retain Malik. is that the Kings are at least willing to do like the 17.4 million or the 4 years 78, whatever it is that they can do, they
Mhm.
will do from what I know. And that's a good thing. But then it's kind of a holding pattern because it really does come down to what other teams can offer or what other teams do offer. Again, the Kings are hard capped with what they can offer him. Like there's only so much they can do, and there's no way for them to create more caps. I mean, there's a way, but it would just cost everything to like dissolve half of your rotation in order to get there, and maybe you can't even do that. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting, like, once we get past the first day, we'll know for sure that he's been extended his offer. And then after that, it's just more or less waiting to see if someone comes in and beats the offer, and then what Malik wants to do once that offer comes in, whether he wants to stay or whether he wants to leave, and how much he values his time here, and what's next.
I gotta figure out a way to get that done. Figure out a way to get that done
What's your gut tell
legally
you?
or illegally.
What's your gut tell you? You think he stays here?
Yeah.
James, what do
I've
you
always
think?
thought he stayed here. Stays here.
I was more like 35% he leaves, 65 at 35% he stays, 65% he leaves. I'm more like 55-45 at this point. I think it can come down to the finances. Like this is a player who has not got paid.
Yeah.
And we can talk all day long about what the Kings could do. If he opts out after 2 years, they could then extend him and do all that stuff. But like that's just so far away. We don't know what the Kings will look like, who will be on the roster by then, how much they will have to pay Keegan Murray by then, if they would have landed another player that would make it nearly impossible for them to give Malik Monk like a 25 or $30 million deal. So you don't ever want to like put it out there that a player should take this and then hope to make the money on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
I hope like what Miss Mac says here in the chatty house. Um, I think there's a possibility he stays, but I also hope that he stays because I enjoy covering Malik.
Yeah.
Not just Malik on the court, but Malik off the court. I get a kick out of him. He makes me laugh. He makes everybody laugh. He's told me and Sean and a few of us to F off so many times, just like in his funny way. Like he has like he always acts like he's not going to talk to us, and then he talks to us. He's just fun. He's a good dude, and I think he's the type of spirit that the Kings really need on this team. He brings a new element that they just didn't have before.
Jesse's making us end our show so we can go to
Oh.
NBA Finals coverage.
Yeah, hurry up. I got to go home and watch the game.
Well, you heard the man. Is it 3-0? How good of a mood will Jesse be in tomorrow? Tune in to find out. Beginning at 10 a.m. with the Insiders here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Vamos Celtics?